Hello and welcome to Segments with Mark and Amber. My name is Mark and I am... Oh, I usually say something funny here.
That was funny.
Was it? Okay. Hey, with me as always is my lovely wife, Amber. Hello, Amber.
Hello.
How are you doing tonight?
I'm fantastic.
Are you very excited about the guest that we have in the palatial segment studios with us tonight?
I'm so excited, yes.
Yes, so with us tonight, you've already heard he spoke out of turn, but we're going to just leave that in, is my good friend, Drew. Hey, Drew.
Hey, Mark.
How are you?
I hope that you know that I often speak out of turn.
Well, that's why we're a little bit nervous about having you on the show,
Sure,
but we're just
understood.
gonna push through and see how it goes. So, Drew is my friend. You may remember him from such segment stories as when I started playing Star Wars miniatures, and
Meeting your friends at Fanfare.
meeting my friends at Fanfare. So this is the Drew. Here he is, live and in person. So
The Drew.
Drew and I just came back from seeing Solo at the theater. And so, Drew, we're going to get into the review of the movie later, but why don't you give us a little bit of your kind of history with Star Wars? Where are you coming from?
So, I think like a lot of people, I saw the films when I was young, the original trilogy, and then when I can't remember exactly how old I was, probably a teenager when the prequels came out, and that's when I really started to...
Love?
Yes. Love is a generous, calm way of putting it, but really kind of dive into what used to be called the expanded universe or the EU, and the novels, the comics, the games.
Legends.
So it was your passionate love of the prequels that drove you to the
Phantom
expanded
Menace.
universe?
Yeah, mostly the Phantom Menace,
Okay.
the most underrated of all the
When
films.
I
Yeah.
first met Drew, he had the craziest Jar Jar Binks t-shirt on. And I was like, who is this guy that is so into Jar Jar? And so I had to introduce myself.
Yeah.
That's not at all true. Unless it was
news.
a picture of Jar Jar with a circle with a line through
Yeah.
it.
That might be, that could be it.
So.
What did you liked the prequels, most of them?
Yes, what I liked seeing was that Star Wars was originally the story of Anakin Skywalker,
Yes.
which we don't hear much about as Anakin in the
Right.
prequel or in the original trilogy.
Yeah.
And so I enjoyed, even though the films caught a lot of flack for both actors that played Anakin, I thought that it was very interesting seeing where he came from.
Yeah.
I did too. I love the Anakin story.
Yeah. I was fine with Hayden, and he had some, he wasn't great, obviously. He had some stuff, but I thought he was fun to watch.
Now that we're the parents of a teenage boy,
Yeah.
like.
That is kind of how they act. Yeah. Who was the kid that played young Annie?
Jake Lloyd.
Jake Lloyd.
Oh, wow.
Good job,
Just
Amber.
off the top of your head.
I've been preparing for our quiz.
Oh, really?
No.
Oh, that's exciting.
That's just right there anyway.
So yeah, and so that was. I was not expecting that. I actually am a fan of the Phantom Menace. I think
Oh, it's so exciting to
So
see
exciting.
a new Star Wars movie on the screen as an adult. Oh, it's awesome.
so. Even though Anakin was a 6-year-old or 9-year-old kid or whatever he was, seeing Darth Maul with a double-bladed lightsaber was
Iconic.
mind blowing.
Iconic moment.
Yeah, and so that and I think that the prequels continued getting better from there.
Oh, I agree.
Yeah.
For me, it was Obi-Wan Kenobi, who's my
Yes.
favorite character in all of the stories. Anything with Obi-Wan was great.
Wow. Okay.
So seeing one of my favorite actors playing my favorite character was fantastic.
I heard a rumor, and this is not from any official channels, but there's talk of an Obi-Wan spinoff, just like there was a Solo, and that maybe the Solo spinoff or the Obi-Wan spinoff is going to follow the Solo, and so will we see kind of a continuation of maybe the Kira spoilers? We'll do spoilers later.
If that's true, then day one I'm pushing to the front of the line. So
Yeah. So this Solo was the first movie since Disney had bought, since the prequels probably, that I didn't see opening night.
Oh, wow.
And it's just like, I just was like, kind of like, almost like, man, we got a lot of Star Wars. And we just have a movie. And so we did see it the opening weekend, and very, very pleasantly surprised. I kind of went in with low expectations, but...
Well, anything with Han Solo has to be low expectations,
Oh,
doesn't it?
no.
You're going to pick up on a theme in Drew's commentary. Not a Solo fan.
No.
So, Amber, what has... don't blame you.
Oh, wow.
So what's the format of our show tonight, Amber?
Well, today we are talking all about the newest movie in our favorite movie franchise, the Solo Star Wars story. What is it called?
It's just called Solo.
There's a tagline.
Solo Star Wars story.
There we go. Okay. See, I needed to include that.
Yeah. Otherwise, people would be like, what are they even talking about?
The cups. We're going to do some of our regular segment bits. We're going to go over any corrections or apologies if we have them. We're going to go over some feedback from our previous episode, which was all about villains. And then we're going to talk about what makes us happy. We are going to have a Star Wars quiz and talk about the movie in depth.
Yeah, I was very excited. As soon as we found out that Drew was coming on the show, I realized that we can now do a quiz where I pit Amber against somebody.
This is not fair. I will be thoroughly destroyed.
Yeah, it could go either way. I tried to make it not very easy this
She's
time.
pretty sharp.
She is sharp. So I'm very excited to get to that. So we did get a little bit of feedback about villains, and we asked, who are some of your favorite villains?
Yeah.
So Callie Fielding, our good friend, she said she got to see the Lion King play while it was here, and Scar was very well played.
Oh, he was one of my favorite villains, right?
So the Lion King was just at Miller Auditorium here, and my mom went and saw it. Apparently it was really, really good.
Best song in The Lion King, Be Prepared, hands down.
Be prepared.
I
can't
have
even
no
think
recollection of that.
It's the one that Scar sings
Can you
to the hyenas.
sing a little tune?
Okay.
I cannot sing it. I could recite it.
Oh, that'll work.
No, I'm not.
Okay. Thanks for the feedback, Callie. And Amber, it looks like Amy left some feedback as well.
Yes, so she commented on her favorite villain was Maleficent from Sleeping Beauty, as far as Disney villains go.
She was very scary.
Yes, oh my goodness. Especially in the end when she morphs into this huge evil dragon thing. I couldn't watch that scene for the longest time, even as an adult. It is really intense for a kid's movie, I agree. And then we asked for suggestions for topics. So she's the only one who wrote in so far. We'd love to hear some other suggestions.
Yes, thank you so much for those topics.
We mentioned we're going to be having a segments planning retreat where we're talking about planning our episodes for the next 6 months or so. And so we definitely want some ideas. She had some ideas, Michigan or Kalamazoo. That's where we live. Desserts. I've thought of that one. Parenting. top 5 worst parents or best parents on TV. I like that.
That I like.
We got a little panicky when we were going to talk about our own parenting because, boy, we're parenting
how
three teenagers.
How do I whittle down my 5 worst parenting moments? I have so many.
It never stops being a guessing game. That's what I know about parenting.
You're talking about your kids?
Yeah.
My kids.
Okay.
Oh, boy. Favorite parenting movies, worst TV parents, etc. There's a lot there. I think parents could be a good topic.
Yeah, so if anybody else wants to, would like to send some ideas for episode themes, that would be fantastic. We would love that. And you can always send those to email, which is segmentscast@gmail.com, or Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter @segmentscast. Okay, so now, Amber, let's get to one of our favorite parts of the show. What's making you happy right now?
Would you like to start, Mark? I want to know what's making you happy right now.
What's making me happy right now is a documentary that I stumbled upon on Netflix the other day. It's called The Toys That Made Us. It's an 8-part documentary, and there's 8 different hour-long episodes, and they're all about different toys from when we were kids. And so the first one was about Star Wars and where Star Wars toys came from, and how kind of the history of how they came into being. And it was fascinating.
So
and
it's made for people our age. It's made for people that grew up in the 70s and 80s.
Absolutely.
80s especially.
Yeah, especially
Okay.
80s. And so it is absolutely for us. And it talked about how George Lucas is making this movie, but he won't give any of the plans or pictures or scripts to anybody until very, very late because he doesn't want anything to leak out. And so all these other companies, Mattel and Fisher Price, I can't. They said 3 or 4 different big toy companies said no, we're not going to do it. They said no to it. And then Kenner, which was I think in like Cleveland or Cincinnati or something like that, they said yes. And they 6 months
smart.
before the movie started, they were scrambling to try to get things together. They weren't able to do it. So the movie comes out. There's no toys on the shelf.
It's the first
Cri-
movie. They
the
just
first
figured they should have toys already. Who
Yeah.
knows if it was even going to be a success?
Yeah, and so they're trying to figure out what to do because they don't have any toys because it takes so much time. So it gets to Christmas, they still don't have any toys, and so they decide at Kenner they take a risk and they sell just like a blank piece of of cardboard with pictures of the characters on it, and they say, "Buy this, and you will be one of the first people to have the toys when these figures when they come out."
Wow.
And so
Did
for
it work?
Christmas, kids basically get nothing. But the promise that they
Did
might
they sell a
they
lot?
did. They just sold a bunch and then they fulfilled it eventually, and it was
Oh, my
anyway,
goodness.
just a bunch of really interesting stories like that. And then I watched one on Barbie, which I wasn't expecting to be good, but it was very fascinating, and then one on He-Man toys. So
All right.
very, very good. So if you're interested in that kind of thing, check out the Toys That Made Us on Netflix.
Awesome.
Amber, what's making you happy right now?
Well, I'm glad you said something that you can watch because I have yet another TV show. Maybe I did one that wasn't a TV show one time.
I think you did, probably.
Yeah, I have other things in my life.
Oh, for sure.
But I'm really excited because the school year is winding down. I just have a couple more days of work to do, and then I've got the summer off. And just in time, ABC has started up The Bachelorette. I have not watched every season of the show by any means, but another podcast I listen to called The Popcast does do weekly recaps of The Bachelorette or The Bachelor. And it is an absolute delight for me every week. It makes me so happy to hear them break it apart and comment on all the stuff that makes you scratch your head and wonder what in the world's going on when you're watching the show. And I love it. You do have to be a Patreon subscriber to listen to their Bachelor recaps, but it is absolutely worth the $3 a month.
So we're
So-
giving our money to people who podcast about The Bachelor.
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
good. Cool.
I think we have to get a few more listeners before we can monetize. But maybe that'll be one of the things behind our paywall is my very own Bachelor commentary.
This is the threshold
Yeah.
podcast.
That's what
tonight.
we're going for. That's
Yeah.
what we're going. So awesome. Well, that's great. So it just kicked off then,
Yes.
and it's going to play out throughout the summer.
I'm pretty sure it's still going when the school year starts. Yes.
Wow, that's crazy. Does another one of your favorite shows, Big Brother, start during the summer?
Oh, it does. That one's for sure still going when the school year starts.
Oh, man.
It'll be awesome.
It
It's
is
hard to
a-
watch them both in 1 week.
Yeah,
It's a lot of TV.
I've tried to watch Big Brother with you, and there's a lot of content.
Well, it's on so many times
It's
a week.
ridiculous.
The Bachelor's only once a week.
That's good. So awesome. Well, there you go. And now, for the first time ever, we're inviting a guest to share what's making them happy. So, Drew, what's making you happy tonight?
I'm honored.
I'm so glad.
Well, so things that make me happy right now are basically two things. Number one, I'm going back to school next month.
Oh,
July.
awesome.
July. I guess we're not quite to June yet.
That's great.
Going to be a family therapist.
Oh my gosh, I love that. I had no idea.
Yep. So kind of a recent choice, but not a huge
Yeah.
fan of what I'm doing right now. I'd like to do something that is fulfilling.
Yeah.
Can help other people. So we're going to start that path
Yeah.
in July.
That's awesome.
Should be a couple years.
Yeah, I was definitely there. When I'm still in the midst of school,
I remember.
kind of went a long route there. But yeah, it's tough when you're kind of at a job and you're like, I want to do something else, and you're like, can't do anything else.
I remember you're expressing your feelings about your old job to
Yeah.
me on a number of
Yes.
occasions.
We
Yes.
all heard that a few times.
Yeah.
So well, that's great. So where are you going?
Western.
Awesome. So, well, you
Yay.
are going to be fantastic at that, Drew.
I think so. It's the
Yes.
beard.
Yeah,
I
that
really
helps.
enjoyed. I went back to school in my 30s. I loved it. It was a
good.
totally different experience than going right out of high school.
Spoiler alert: Drew's in his 30s.
Yes, 35, 36 in July.
It's not really a spoiler. Oh, awesome. So you said there's two things.
And the other is Magic the Gathering, which is what I played after Star Wars Minis.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, collapsed and burned horrifically.
Yeah. Oh, so sad.
Yes, when they decided that, hey, we'll just print the most powerful
Yeah.
creature or figures in the games that anyone could ever make.
Yeah.
And then that was like, oh, these are maybe too good.
You do good. The game and everything else falls apart.
Yes.
Yeah, that was sad. So yeah, I've got a number of friends who are big into the Magic the Gathering. So what is your color of choice?
Blue. So
A healer.
that
know
is
the-
not what blue does. in
Okay.
Magic. So,
You sounded so sure. I, liked that.
right.
yeah, it was close. We are a healer in the sense that we don't allow other people to hurt themselves by playing terrible other cards. That
Okay.
So blue is what is referred to as kind of what we call a permission color. So if you were to try and play one of your cards, I could prevent that from happening.
Okay.
And that's kind of what blue's niche is.
Gotcha. Segment 1, a Star Wars quiz. I'm very excited about this quiz. So
Me too.
I don't know we have to decide who's going to go first.
I think Amber should probably go first.
Oh, you're just going to defer?
Yes.
So the questions get progressively more difficult. So it does maybe gives Amber an edge up.
We'll see.
But just a little edge.
That's
Just
fine.
so.
I was going to lose to Amber anyways, so.
So Amber, we're going to do it a little bit differently tonight. Can you tell us how we're going to do? We usually have you play for a listener, but now we have two people. So how's that going to work?
Well, we thought we should both play for a listener. And so either way, a listener will win and a listener will lose.
Finally, a listener will lose. I'm very excited.
We've had some close calls, but so far all the listeners we've played for have won.
I apologize in advance to my listener.
We've found a good solution here. We're both going to be playing for a member of a couple.
Okay.
So I'm going to be playing for Dorothy Kedar, and you're going to play for her husband, Rohan.
Great. Oh,
Rohan, we invited to be on this podcast, but he is, again, traveling.
Oh, yes. Yeah, they're moving across state, so I
Yeah.
think it's part of that. Great. Well, for Rohan and Dorothy, here goes the Star Wars quiz. Amber versus Drew. I will be the question asker, and I will be the scorekeeper.
Check.
I don't have a pen. Oh, Drew does.
for one correct answer, I will hand you my pen.
You get
Don't
one
let
hint
us
now.
see those answers.
I'm not going to let you see no answers. Amber is very
I
nervous about
really
seeing
don't
these.
like that.
All right. Amber, what were Luke's aunt and uncle's job on Tatooine?
You're going to give me multiple choice? Or I
No.
just,
there's-
wow.
This is a no multiple choice
Well,
question.
that's exciting. He said
I
it
told
starts
you
easy.
Said it starts easy.
Oh, okay.
Drew is pantomiming.
Disgust. And,
Disgust.
And outrage. They were moisture farmers.
That is correct. Drew did not know that.
That is not true. I was
Okay.
a moisture farmer in a role-playing game.
Okay, well, let's see how Drew does here. In how many languages is C-3PO fluent?
Over 6 million forms of communication.
You are correct,
Ooh, I
Drew.
don't know if I would have got that one.
I've watched these movies literally dozens of times.
I feel like I have too, but yeah.
Okay. You guys are tied up. Amber, what is the Wookiee's homeworld?
Kashyyyk.
Correct. Okay.
That's good that you didn't give
Everything's-
Drew a Wookiee question, right?
The
He doesn't
Wookiees
like
are fine.
Wookiees?
No,
Oh.
Wookiees are fine. Just
Okay.
So
not
here's-
ones that hang out with Han Solo.
Here's where it
Okay.
starts getting a little bit more challenging.
On my question, sure.
Which character is partially named after George Lucas's son?
Are you serious? You give her Kashyyyk? I have no idea. This would be a good time for that hint for the pen.
Okay, so this character is kind of a tertiary character from Attack of the Clones.
It's at the Tarful.
It's not. It's Dexter Jetster.
Sure.
George Lucas's son's name is Jet Lucas.
You've got to be kidding me.
Thank you, Amber.
Even if I knew his name was Jet Lucas, I've never heard of this Dexter Jetler.
Did I not say that they
question-
increase in difficulty?
You gave her Kashyyyk at the same time. What is the homeworld? What is the tertiary character's name? Also, what is the homeworld of the Wookiees? All right.
So what you guys are saying is that that was too hard. That was too much.
That
I
might
feel
have-
there was a discrepancy.
If they continue to get harder after that, then we're in trouble.
Yes.
Okay, you know what? Let's just scrap that one.
No, that's fine.
No,
I got it wrong.
We'll see what happens.
Yep.
Okay. Amber, are you ready? Amber, what was the second movie made? I'm just kidding. Kidding. In which movie does the camera pan back up after the crawl instead of down? In the beginning of every Star Wars movie, we see the iconic crawl of text followed by the camera panning down with one exception.
Really? I didn't know that. I'm going to say The Force Awakens. That's a guess.
It is incorrect.
Chance to Steal.
Yeah.
Uh,
Steal.
Episode 6, Return of the Jedi.
It is not. It's episode 2, Attack of the Clones.
Oh my
Really?
gosh.
So the plane, I think it's the one where the ship is flying in and then it flips upside down. I can't remember. That made me scratch my head too, but that was a good one.
Yeah.
Okay, so hey, good news. I don't know why that's good news, but you both missed one. So
We're
that's the
still
thing.
Hooray.
tied. It makes it good.
Yeah, that makes it good. Drew. I said they got more difficult.
I should have gone first. Yeah.
How many dewbacks were in the original 1977 theatrical cut of the first Star Wars movie?
None.
2.
Really?
Or 2. 5 more were added in the 97 special
I remember
edition.
that they
I know
added
they
more.
added them. Yeah, I wouldn't have known.
But I
Two.
thought that it was 0
See, this is a very...
These are really intense questions.
for me. For me, they're intense.
Come on, Amber missed one.
That's true.
All right. Which...
This one's mine, right?
Amber,
Yeah.
which species stole the plans to the Death Star?
Which time?
Ooh,
And the original?
Bothans.
Yes, that's
Many
correct.
Bothans died to bring us.
Amber, good job.
Uh
I might have a correction for you next week.
oh.
Really?
I think so.
In the first one, that she doesn't say that?
I believe that is in 6 when they are referencing
Yeah.
the second Death Star.
It could be
And in the
Oh.
first one, it's humans in Rogue One.
because we saw
Which
it.
species? Oh,
I
bet.
remember thinking, "Where
Yeah.
are the Bothans?" in Rogue One, and then somebody's like,
Because
oh,
they're
that's the
all
second.
together.
You're right.
on
That is
Ooh.
episode
Ackbar's
6.
flagship, yep.
That is episode 6. This. I wonder if this question existed prior to Rogue,
It's possible.
because we didn't. Well, still. Anyway.
Right.
No. Good audio here. So
She was right.
She
though.
was right. That is a species that stole Death Star plans
Yes.
at one point.
Correct.
So, all right, Drew, are you ready?
Yes.
Who kissed Leia first, Han or Luke?
Ooh. I feel like I'm going to get tricked here.
No, it's not a trick. It's not
It's
a trick.
50-50, so I always get these wrong by default.
Yeah.
I'm going to go with Han, but it's Luke.
It's
Is
Luke.
it specifically who kissed her or who she kissed?
Yeah.
Is that what you were thinking? Yeah. 'cause
So she kisses Luke because she's mad at Han
Yeah.
in 5, but Han has kissed her when they are in the
Empire.
asteroid belt.
you know what? I'm going to give that
But
to you because
doesn't
that
she
is
kiss
true.
him when they're going to swing over the chasm for luck? She gives him a kiss for luck. Isn't that in the first?
She gives Luke
Yeah,
a
that's
kiss.
when they're on the Death Star. She's right.
That's what I was picturing. But that's not Luke kiss. That's a kiss between the two of them, sort of on the cheek. But it's definitely a kiss.
I feel like
Luke counts it.
Luke counts it. So yeah, technically,
I'm not doing too hot here.
You're not doing too well,
This
Drew.
is a very challenge. This is great. It's our first.
I thought that I was some kind of an expert, but I'm
Yeah.
wrong.
Well, maybe my question is too hard. Amber, what odds does C-3PO give Han for successfully navigating the asteroid field?
Not possible to know this.
Okay, I don't. I mean, it's like 1 in 346 million or something. I don't know.
Close. 3,720 to 1. Yep. All right. So this is challenging quiz.
That
Here,
would be really amazing if I knew that.
If,
It would-
anybody, if anyone knew that.
if anyone, I knew
Anthony
it.
Daniels probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Drew, what does AT-AT stand for?
All-terrain armored transport.
Good job.
Wow.
Okay. Now we're rolling. Amber, who was Lando Calrissian's co-pilot in Episode 6, Return of the Jedi?
Lando's co-pilot. It could be that kind of short guy, or it could be.
You want Drew to do an
Like a
impression of this
Lobot.
character?
Yeah.
I'll do it.
I honestly can't. I can picture him, but I don't know his name. He's got kind of that molded, plastic-looking face with layers.
Yep, yep, yep.
Yeah.
I don't know his name.
Oh, his name is Nine Numb.
Ooh.
Nine
I've
Numb.
heard that name, but I didn't know that's who that was.
Somehow Drew gets a gimme here. What was the name of Boba Fett's ship?
Slave One. Mm-hmm. He had
It's
different
about time
iterations.
that Drew got a gimme.
Yeah.
Hey,
Thank you.
Hey, listeners, we're all tied up here,
Are we?
3-3.
Okay.
Pretty exciting. Amber, who is the original commander of the Death Star?
I mean, the original commander of the Death Star. I don't think I know that. The only one I know is Tarkin. That's my guess, Tarkin.
Ooh, he was the second commander. Drew,
I
do you
can't
know?
remember his name. He's from Rogue One. He's
his-
played by Ben Mendelsohn.
His
Wow.
name is Orson Krennic.
Oh, Krennic, yeah.
Okay. All right, Drew, what's the largest annual pod race?
Bunta Eve.
That is
Wow,
correct.
Look at you.
Drew pulls ahead.
Phantom Menace always pays off.
That's right. Man, Drew pulls ahead. Amber, who was Anakin Skywalker's chief rival in the largest annual pod race?
Sebulba.
Okay.
I would not have remembered that.
Wow.
Oh.
We're all tied up here. Luke, where was Luke Skywalker... what, did I call you Luke?
Yes.
Drew, where was Luke Skywalker originally headed to pick up power converters?
Tashi Station.
That is correct. Man, now we're really...
He can waste time with his friends later.
Amber, this is a tough one. I couldn't remember the answer to this, but I
Okay.
think you might. Who's the only Rebel pilot to survive all 3 movies in the original trilogy?
I mean,
Amber read a lot of those Rogue One novels.
I feel like that's a super big hint.
Oh,
You'll get it.
we're not counting Luke.
Yeah, we're not counting Luke.
Okay, Red Gentiles then would be my guess.
Yes. Amber,
He's the
good job.
only- we know Porkins didn't make it, and I can't think of a single other one. So.
Oh, really? Yeah. Biggs
Nailed
died?
it.
Biggs died? Biggs
Biggs?
died?
Biggs dies, yeah. He
In the
gets
first
blown up
one?
on the trench run, yeah.
Oh, man. Sorry, Biggs.
He's not set.
Oh,
Who's this turn? Is it Drew?
Yeah, it's me.
What's the make and model of the Millennium Falcon?
It's a YT 1300 Corellian freighter.
That's a good job, Drew. All right.
It was literally in the film we saw
now we know
an
all
hour
about
Well-
Han's Carillion background.
ago. Yeah.
Amber, what is the name of the planet in Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith, that was filled with enormous sinkholes?
Sinkholes. Is that the one that Grievous was on?
I can't give you any more hints.
You haven't given her any yet.
Oh, yeah.
Oh man, all I can think of is Fallujah, but that was a different one. I can't think of it.
Drew, do you remember?
Utapau.
That is correct.
Wow, I would not have come up with that.
All right, Drew, you are still ahead by 1, and it's your question. Who is Dr. Evanson Cornelius's partner?
Ponda Baba.
That is correct.
Wow, what in the world? I don't even know those words.
So that's the doctor and the...
A Qualish thug that
his
Obi-Wan cuts
arm
off his
gets
arm.
cut off in the...
I want it on 12 systems.
In Mos Eisley?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
You'll be dead.
All right, Amber, here we go. You got to catch up.
Okay.
Rey is a scavenger from what planet?
Jakku?
That is correct.
I was totally blanking.
I mean, it took me a second. I was like, oh no. She needs to get back to Jakku. Nobody wants to go back to Jakku.
All right, Drew. You got to keep your lead. What planet does the Rogue One crew infiltrate to find the Death Star plans?
Scarif.
That is correct.
Wow.
Very good. You guys are doing so good. Amber's got another toughie.
I mean, other than Dexter Jetster or whatever his name was.
You got it right.
I did not
You
get
remember
it right.
he's got the 4 arm. Well, you
I
got
was
it
gonna,
right that time.
I was
Just now
going to
when you
guess the
said it.
little Jedi that like kills the clone troopers in 3.
Oh.
Because I think that was Lucas's nephew.
Yeah,
but
I think so too. So
But that was not
Dexter
right.
was the he owned that little diner. He had 4 arms and a big ugly face. So, Amber, what was Lando?
That guy?
That-
I know him.
The big
That-
brown alien that serves
named
coffee
him
and
after
hugged
his son?
Obi-Wan?
Yeah, that's Dexter Jetster.
Oh. Wow, that seems like a sad one.
No, it's
Name
good.
your son.
Okay.
Oh boy.
Okay, what was Amber?
Okay.
What was Lando Calrissian's position on Cloud City? It's a little tough one.
I mean, he definitely was high up.
He was the highest.
I don't think they had like governors, chancellors, prime minister.
Oh, close.
I don't know.
Close. Do you remember, Drew? It's a tough one.
I have 2 things that are going back and forth in my mind. One is that he was an administrator, and the other one was that he was director of mining operations.
I think both of those
Ooh.
are true.
I can hear him saying
His
that.
title was Baron Administrator.
Okay.
Whoa.
Baron Administrator.
Okay.
He had the cape for it.
Okay.
Yes.
So Drew doesn't get a point for that, but neither does Amber. So, Drew, what was the name of the hyperfuel that Han and Kira were after in Solo?
Coaxium.
I didn't know if you'd remember that. You
Well,
just-
they said it about 40 times.
okay, so. All right. Drew's kind of pulling away with it, but Amber can still catch up.
All right.
Amber, what was the name of the female crime boss on Corellia who Han and Kira escaped from at the beginning of Solo?
Lady something. Lady Tartula. No?
Lady Tartula. That could be your role-playing character.
That would be a good one.
I don't know. She's a big roly-poly bug-looking thing.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Her name was Lady Proxima.
Proxima.
Yeah, that was a tough one. Drew. In Star Wars miniatures, black and blue refers to which overpowered duo in the competitive gaming circles?
But the only thing that I can think of is what we used to call Thrawn swap, which was Grand Admiral Thrawn and the 75-point Vader, which I can't remember which
I
iteration.
believe that one was Lord Vader.
Lord Vader.
That makes perfect sense. Black and blue.
We can't forget what character actually made that whole thing work, though, Mark.
I remember.
Yes.
It was
Tell us.
Masamita.
The 8-point thing that did nothing, that broke the game
Yeah,
in
that
twain.
did not help. That did not
no.
help. And then there was one game where I got who was the captain of the guard on Naboo, who also had a swap ability later in the game.
Oh.
And I can't remember his name. But for some reason his
Panaka?
Panaka. But for some
Nice.
reason
Cool.
his did not work with Masamita, and I can't remember why. And I was playing it, and I tried to swap it like everybody had been doing for years because of Thrawn swap, and I tried to swap Panaka, and they were like, "You can't do that."
Was Panaka a rebel?
Yeah, but Masamita could go with either.
No, he could go with the Republic or the Imperials. He could not go with rebels.
Well, maybe that was my problem. So
Maybe.
it was very embarrassing.
Cross-faction
And,
gaming, everybody.
So Drew, you won that game. You won the
Woo!
quiz, and so
Nice.
you won Rohan his very own segment sticker.
Yay.
So congratulations.
Sorry, Dorothy.
Amber, you've never lost a quiz before.
I know,
Are
that's
you doing okay over there?
I don't know. I feel energized. It's a weird thing to feel. I just
like it.
that it wasn't easy.
Okay, mental note. Awesome. Well, Drew, thanks for playing our little quiz.
You're welcome. It was fun.
Segment 2, Solo Time. So this is the segment where we traditionally break down and discuss the movie Solo.
Traditionally, in all of our other solo
all of
podcasts,
our other solo
this is where
podcasts.
we've done it.
So let's go around the table.
There will be spoilers.
Oh, this is big time spoilers. So if you have not seen the movie, pause, go out and see it, and then come back and listen in.
Yes.
So let's start with our overall impressions. Amber, why don't you start?
Well, I think it was really fun. I definitely had lower expectations. I'd seen some early kind of flat buzz. Is that a thing? No, but people were not having huge reactions to it on social media. I fortunately was not spoiled about anything, but I definitely went into it thinking, we'll just see what it is. It came across very much like a cool heist movie, and I love heist movies. I was not at all sold on the casting for Han. I didn't feel like that in the previews he looked like Han to me at all. I've always been really impressed with how in Star Trek they were able to get the young Spock and the young Kirk to be so familiar seeming. The new actors to me compare a lot to the original.
Drew, you can disagree with her.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Yes.
When she says the new Star Trek, she means the films made that have like
Yes. Zachary Quinto and Chris Pine.
Okay. That's all I wanted to know is
Do you disagree?
well, those aren't Star Trek films.
Oh, Drew.
What are they?
Drew.
Those are Random Space Adventure 1A, 1B, and whatever 1C might have been. They have nothing remotely close to what Star Trek is
Wow.
in any iteration, and they are an embarrassment to the
Wow.
entire franchise.
Oh,
interesting.
okay.
So that's different than my take, which was that those are the Star Trek movies that I liked.
Yeah. Those are
Well, I think that mostly people enjoy them because there's actual action in them.
yeah.
And the shows are really harken back to a time on television when that wasn't important. Like it was like we're telling it's Star Trek shows have always been like moral fables stories. And so action's not necessary to try and find the moral of the story. And so I think what the new films wanted to do was get people to pay money to go to them. And so they included this, but to do that, I think they lost the spirit of what Star Trek really is.
Wow.
Interesting.
Hot take
He's
from
got
Drew.
some opinions.
I
That's
love it.
great.
So-
But anyway, I did come around big time on the Han casting. I thought he captured a lot of Harrison Ford's stances and
Oh, yeah.
mannerisms and facial expressions, and I was totally sold by the end. And I loved all the rest of the casting.
Awesome.
So overall, thumbs up from me.
Great. Drew, what was your takeaway?
I thought it was a real solid movie. Like on the way out, I said I think it was a solid B. I'd watch it again. Entertaining for sure. I also had pretty low expectations, which is probably why I enjoyed it as much as I did. I thought that the character of Lando was completely nailed. He was my favorite part of the film. I very much like what the other characters brought to the table, especially the ones we had not seen before, like Kira.
Yeah.
I am rather unhappy about the fact that relatively big name actors are getting roles in these films, because Star Wars originally was a bunch of unknowns that struck it rich, basically, with this great idea that George Lucas had.
Yeah.
And to see the girl from Game of Thrones and Woody Harrelson kind of makes me think like, oh, I'm watching Woody Harrelson or like the Dragon Queen. From
It takes you out a little bit.
Yeah, so I'd never seen that movie. What is she in? I'm sorry.
Game of Thrones.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I haven't seen that, so that didn't take me out. I did feel kind of that way a little bit with Woody Harrelson, but I'm a big Woody Harrelson fan. I don't know why I am. I guess from Cheers.
He's a really good actor. He's been in a lot of
He's an
stuff.
amazing
Yeah,
actor.
he is. I just don't know. I was like,
Hunger Games.
oh yeah, I did like him in that. I was just like, why would I?
He was
I'm like,
similar,
I
I felt, in
know a
Hunger
lot of
Games.
movies
Yeah.
that he's in. Anyway, so yeah, in the kind of the saga movies, they're still kind of sticking with that, not famous actors or actresses. Well, they're Phasma, but you can never see her face. She's from Game of Thrones
but
too,
the
right?
main
Yes.
Ray and those people are.
Yeah, they're yeah.
Finn.
I can't think of
Who
anybody else.
plays Poe Dameron? Oscar Isaac. So he was probably the biggest name.
Yeah.
But I didn't
And
know
he's
him
gotten a lot
before.
bigger too.
Yeah.
He's done some really great work recently.
Yeah, I really like him a lot. So awesome. Well, my takeaway was I also went in with pretty low expectations, and I was blown away. So Drew actually, I think, went to get some food when this scene happened. So this was the one scene that I wasn't sold on, and still am not sold on. So Han gets up to the Imperial counter where he's signing up to be an Imperial, and they're like, "What's your name?" Han.
Yeah.
Han what? He's like, who are your people? And he's like, I don't have any people. And the Imperial guy is like, kind of thinking, he's like, Solo. And I'm like, an Imperial named him Solo? Don't like.
Yeah, that seemed a little bit cheesy. I think there could have been something a little bit different, even if that was sort of his name. Like, how many are in your party? I don't know. I just feel like
Yeah.
they could have done it a little bit
So
better.
that was pretty early in the movie, and I was afraid that was going to be
The
my
tone.
my takeaway for the whole thing. But it wasn't. There was only one other thing that I was like, at the very end. He's like, "What are you going to do with this money?" And she's like, "I'm going to start a rebellion." And I'm like, "All right,
Yes. Well, I'll jump in here.
yeah,
So you have to do stuff like that with this character because he really hasn't added anything else to the story other than being Leia's love interest.
yeah." I agree that I liked seeing that tie-in. It just felt like maybe the writing for it maybe pull it back a little bit.
Yeah.
If you can-
It's too obvious.
It's too obvious.
In your face. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but everything else. So I would say, I don't know. I've kind of quit ranking Star Wars movies. There's so many, and it kind of goes upside down. But this to me, is way up there. Like, I think I enjoyed it more than I liked either Force Awakens or The Last Jedi.
It's crazy,
Which
but
is crazy.
yeah.
I just, And watching it a second time, I just walked out of it feeling that was just a great movie. And you walk out of The Last Jedi going, oh, that was good. That was
Your
really good.
expectations are higher for the other two.
Yeah, I think that's
you didn't
what
feel
it
that way
is.
walking out of The Force Awakens?
Yeah, I did. I think maybe part of it is that Solo is its own movie. It's done. Like,
Yeah.
here it is, right? With the saga movies, and with the original and the prequel, we've had all of them for so long that you're not like kind of wondering how it anyway. So you're
No, I
not
get
left
it.
with those questions. You're just with this. So Solo, you're just left kind of satisfied with a great story. So I thought it was great. I give it an A. So, what scenes kind of jumped out, or what parts of the movie do you guys want to touch on?
I loved all the Han and Lando thing. I think that's like a thing for me. I like comedy between guys in a movie.
Yeah,
Because I liked the Loki and the Thor, and I liked all the, when we were talking about friendships, I liked all the funny guys, but I thought their scene, Lando blew it out of the park. Every time he's on the screen, he stole the show. And I really just liked their dynamic, because I wondered how much history, going into when you first meet Lando, how much history did these guys have? And I think they set up enough in this movie alone that if the very next time they see each other is Empire Strikes Back, they'd be fine.
Oh, I
Because
completely agree.
they so much story happened and so much relationship transpired between the two of them. So I thought that was fantastic. The final scene when he actually does win the Falcon and he catches Lando cheating at cards. Oh, I loved it.
I thought it was really cool because going into the movie, if you know Star Wars lore, right, you know that Han won the ship from him in a card game, and so for him not to win it in that
Yes, that was so
first, I thought it
surprising.
was very interesting.
Yes.
So yeah, I really like that. I loved watching them gamble and Lando, with the card up his sleeve.
Yeah.
Thought that was great.
And when Han hugged him, kind of when he knew he was cheating and hugged him, it was very similar to the hug they first give each other when they meet in the Empire. Oh, it's just great.
Oh yeah, and they kind of
Pretending to be friends,
antagonistic,
but angry,
and
and
then
yeah.
They bring it in. So
Buddy,
yeah,
yeah.
I completely agree. What did you think? And maybe this is a good question for Drew. That we got the big reveal that Tobias Bennett is the one who killed Aura Singh.
So Aura Singh is one of my favorite characters from the expanded universe.
Yeah.
And they haven't really talked about her, in any of the films or what was largely considered canon now. I think she was in Rebels.
And so there's a scene, just standing in episode 1. She's just standing at the on the racetrack.
Right.
And then, I think, she's in Rebels.
Or was it
Or
Clone Wars? One of the two.
She was in one of the cartoons.
Yeah. And I think that was a nod to people who have been invested in the stories deeply for a long time. So it mattered to me. Like, I got something from it.
Yeah.
Because if you're 10 or 12 years old now and, like, someone brings it up, you're like, oh, I guess Aura Singh was important.
Yeah.
And you don't realize that she's, like, this super high assassin that's
it's
pretty
really
difficult to
cool
kill.
to see, and we'll get to the big reveal at the end, but it's cool to see these tie-ins with the cartoons. We saw that in Rogue One too, not maybe as blatant, but over the loudspeaker you hear them say, General Syndulla, paging General Syndulla, who is from the captain of the Rebels, the Ghost team.
Oh yeah.
And you can see Chopper in the movie.
Really?
If you look, it's like for a split second. And they say you can see the Ghost in the space battle. I have looked many times, and I've never seen it. So, but
it's probably in the
so I
animated show.
like that they're bringing a connection to the cartoons bringing them more concretely into the canon.
I think it's a nice nod for you people who know all of those, but it's certainly not overpowering, because I didn't know who Aura Singh was. I didn't know any of these things, and it didn't take me away. I was just like, all right, she must have been important,
just
but I don't know.
Yeah, it's kind of like a throwaway line, like in in A New Hope, when Obi-Wan says, "Oh, your father fought in the Clone Wars," and it, in the movie,
Right.
it's like,
What does that
who
even
cares?
mean?
It's just
What
this,
were those?
It's
Yeah.
just this background.
And
thing.
little did we know that for the next 12 years we would be inundated with stories set in that universe.
Roger.
Oh, those are great. I love the battle droids. They're so great.
Yeah.
Every time.
Yeah, it would have been great if there was like a
You're
battle
welcome.
droid hanging in his hut there on Tatooine.
that'd
So
be cool.
maybe in a new special edition they could digitize that in there. So,
Maybe.
I'd be up for it.
so Amber, did you notice them talk about Bosk, and did you catch that?
I did hear a mention to Bosk.
You remember who that is?
He's a bounty hunter because we had the toy, but I don't. He's just kind of in the background when Vader is hiring bounty hunters.
That is yes on the Star Destroyer.
Okay.
Yeah, and so he's what I did learn that he is wearing a costume that is a kind of a. It was originally used in a Doctor Who episode, and they found it and threw it on that lizard guy.
That really felt. I mean, that really
Isn't that crazy?
makes sense because
Yeah.
Doctor Who has ridiculous costumes.
Yeah, so now they got this lizard guy in this weird yellow jumpsuit thing. So
Oh,
I'll
that's
never
great.
be able to not see that.
I know, it's crazy. And so I think I could look it up again and find out what episode of Doctor Who that was in. But anyway, pretty cool. Yeah. So what else? What else, guys? What
You
else
did-
stood out to you?
Oh, you gave us your overall. Yeah. Did you give us what stood out to you? Yes.
What stood out to me, I think, was all these different little Easter eggs throughout the movie, and I just loved Tobias Beckett wore the costume that Lando wears in Return of the Jedi.
Yeah, when
The
they
bounty
go
hunter.
to break into Jabba's to rescue Han, he's wearing, it's got kind of like a saber-tooth teeth or
Yeah.
whatever
Yeah.
in the front of it. Yeah, I
Yeah.
definitely recognized that right away.
Immediately. And it's very, 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 very cool.
That was really cool.
Yeah, I just love that, and I think that because and I think Drew said this already, but because the movie was just focused on Han, they were able to kind of reach into all these
Yeah.
different facets of the different shows and timelines and bring pieces and parts in, and it was pretty. It just made it fun, and it made it really feel like part of the lore.
Yeah, definitely.
I think they do that in Marvel movies. I just have no idea.
yeah, right?
You know, because I watch the movies and
it's
I
a
miss
much bigger universe than Star Wars. They've been so many comics for so long.
Yeah, and I just can't keep up. And I wasn't really a comic book reader anyway, and so I'm, every time they do one of those after the credits things, I'm like, I have
Who?
no idea. So
Right.
I Google it and try to figure out what it is. So, yeah.
Yeah, I liked it when we got to see Han's blaster come together because I recognized that even though I'm not an ammunition person, but we had the toy again, so it's like, oh, this is the one. This is the one. Obviously, they were kind of heavy-handed, showing it very clearly on the
Yeah,
camera, but
I did like that a lot.
that was cool, and he kept that all along.
Yeah, and so
long
it
time.
looked like Tobias was kind of taking apart like a rifle or something. Or?
So-
Bigger gun, yeah.
What? That's kind of funny because in Rogue One, Cassian, who's kind of the guy that she's on the beach with at the end there,
Yeah.
Okay.
when the planet's blown up, he's disassembling a weapon when they're off on one of their ships. I think they're going to the planet where her father dies. Mm-hmm. And in the video game Battlefront, she has a pistol that can be turned into a blaster or a sniper rifle.
Really?
Oh, really?
And so now what they've done is they've hidden Han's DL-44 blaster, and what's his name? Tobias Beckett was using it as essentially a blaster rifle, and then disassembled it. So and
Cool.
then throws him the pistol, right? So
Oh, but they've already set up that can
That's already
be
there. I
that kind
love
of
it.
weapon is
you
in
know
that
what?
world.
We know what this allows is for them to make more toys.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I want the convertible gun.
There you
Yes.
go.
Yeah, I've always wanted a DL-44. Never got one. The good ones are very expensive.
Yeah, and they shoot lasers.
Yeah, so good. I want that. I need that one.
Yeah.
Just for home protection.
Right.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So let's talk about the big. Let's talk about the heist.
Oh my
train
gosh,
heist
that
was
train
great.
was so cool. I really liked it. What a cool way to do a train.
I leaned over to Drew and I was like, "Didn't they do this in that TV show with the spaceship and the cowboys and the Chinese people?" And he's
Firefly.
like, "Firefly."
Oh, wow.
And it's funny because the name of that episode is The Train Job.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and
Oh,
it was
wow.
it was originally the pilot for the whole series.
Okay.
And then they filmed once Fox picked up the show, they filmed 2 more episodes to lead into it.
Oh.
But that's supposed to be the opener.
Okay, it's a great episode. There's something
They're
cool
all
about
great.
train heists, I
Yeah.
think.
Oh, yeah.
And so here we have the Star Wars version, very cool train on this kind of rail system.
Mm-hmm.
And they've stolen some sort of a AT carrier, and the little 4-armed guy, Rio. Whoa, look at that.
Wow.
Rio is pulling it up, and then everybody else kind of jumps onto it and hooks onto the train.
Yeah, multiple things have to happen. You've got to have hooks hooked to ships in the air. You've got to disconnect the car from other cars, and then you have to blow up the bridge
Yeah, so
so
there's-
that as it's falling off the bridge, you can lift it.
Yeah. So, which made me think, well, why didn't they just unhook the front and the back of the train and then just lift it? But
Yeah.
Because that car is attached to the rail.
that car is attached to the
Because
rail.
it's like a monorail.
Oh, it is
So-
the way it
True.
twists like that. I'm glad we've got you
Yeah,
here. You're right.
Yeah, that's very true. And yeah, so what did you think about that whole sequence? I thought it was really cool.
Yeah, it's long. That's a long action for me. I went to the bathroom during that, and I did not miss anything as far as I know.
Yeah, you definitely did not.
But it was like if they're going to do a train heist, it was a cool way to do it.
Yeah. In the second time I saw it with Drew just today, in the train heist, the whole screen went out for a few seconds, and you pretty much didn't miss anything.
Oh no! So this is the first time we got to see the girl in the crazy mask.
Yes.
Oh,
Who I might say I
Freckles.
thought was not a human based on the fact that she was flipping around and like jumping further than I thought people
Yeah.
could jump, and I thought, oh, this is some alien or
this second time I
Droid.
watched it looked like her staff allowed her to either
Ooh, it's
attack
like a
things
pogo
powerfully
staff.
or to like pogo,
Mm-hmm.
around. So it seemed like she was using that to kind of leap around and stuff.
Did she
So.
seem like she was a 15-year-old freckled girl?
The second time watching it, knowing who she was, no, it was still.
She might be older than that, but she's young.
Yeah.
Plus, like when she took off that hood, she lost like 18 inches in height.
True, it is a tall hood.
And I was like, this is clearly a guy
yeah.
or some kind of droid. And it's not. It's this tiny, tiny woman.
Yeah. I liked it.
Yeah.
I thought it was very cool. I kind of felt like she was kind of like, well, before the reveal, I kind of felt like she's kind of the Boba Fett of
Yeah.
you're like, who is this kind of mysterious, like
Masked.
cool looking person
Yeah.
that's on this cool like speeder bike thing, and I thought she was very, very cool. And
Well, now they have a young female rebel that they can build a whole new storyline around
yeah,
True.
if they
True.
want to, like whatever her name is and her marauders
yeah,
and how they're one of the founding groups of the rebellion.
Yeah.
That's a great story.
it's a great
Yeah.
story. And we saw a couple cool cameos. I guess cameos in her people. There's a Rhodian.
Which is the first, I think, like the first time that we have seen a race from the original trilogy
That's exactly
show
what I
up
was
in
gonna
these new
say.
movies.
I'm like, thank you for just give me a Hammerhead.
Where are my
Give me
Jawas?
a Twi'lek. Give me a Jawa. Give me anything here.
Yeah.
Or even the prequel trilogy. We
Yeah.
have what was Shakti was a Togrutan, I think.
yeah.
And a bunch of really cool.
Why? I mean, and they're not developing any of them.
Yeah.
It's just like, oh, hey, this is wallpaper. You're not going to learn about what any of these different new races are. They're just weird, crazy monsters that we can
Yeah.
drop in and out at a minute's notice.
Yeah. I think the second time watching it, I think I saw a Twi'lek on the Spice Planet, Kessel. I think I saw a Twi'lek. I'm not sure.
Well, they make great slaves. So
They do.
Oh, no.
So, ouch.
that's kind of the history of that whole planet.
Yeah. And did you feel emotion about Val's sacrifice on the bridge?
Not hers.
No.
I tried. Yeah.
The
I
character
mean,
was too brief.
It was
brief.
too brief. I could tell that she and Woody. They did as best they can. Not Woody. What's his name? Beckett.
Beckett.
To have a connection. I didn't get at the moment. It just seemed like it was about money. I'm like, don't blow yourself up for money. Go for the next. But then when they revealed that they were going to be in big trouble if they didn't pay this debt, then it was like, well, I guess she's trying to look out for her group. But to me, it looked like she had just died for money, and that didn't make sense.
Yeah, I think that's kind of the weight of it. She realized they need this, or else they're going to get hunted down by Crimson Dawn, and so she's
It's
willing
so
to.
much more tragic when it drops. Then
Yeah.
that they don't. Oh,
Yeah, it's very. Yeah, it didn't
Like
make
that she
any,
literally died for nothing.
exactly.
Right, yeah.
And
Yeah.
so, and then they
Oops.
like, we have to steal this gigantic Imperial ship to pull this thing, or I guess we could have got like 4 like speeder bikes and done it.
They couldn't clear the mountain either, but I think it's because they were being pulled by the other ship. Nobody could. They
Well,
had to let go too.
Yeah. Well, I can't remember how that worked. He let go, and then it was like
One of the
swinging-
speeder bikes went out of control and that
Yeah,
threw it off, and they couldn't do it anymore.
and it dropped and blew up that whole mountain. So
I felt way more emotion about L3.
I couldn't
yeah,
feel
that was
emotion
a-
about that. I just
I felt bad.
No, I didn't feel
there's- You can't feel no emotion for robots.
I just like it when in Star Wars, like the droids go from being mindless, like extras, to I've developed a personality.
Yeah.
and that makes them feel like real characters.
Yeah.
and then I feel bad when they in Rogue One they have the big Imperial
K2SO.
Yeah,
I did feel
and
bad
I was
for him.
literally dropped a tear
Aww.
when they killed him and he sacrificed himself for the team.
That was a beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, really, everybody on that team sacrificed for that, but I did like that.
yeah.
I think it was the trying to make it seem a little bit like a love thing that I didn't like. Even if even if it would have been, Lando would have been like, this is my companion that I'm really going to miss. But
Yeah, it did seem a little bit weird in
like
the cockpit
cradling
when
her head, and
when
she's
L3's like, oh, it would work. Okay.
I just love the attitude, and I thought she was being voiced by Gwendolyn Christie.
I did too. I said that.
Is it
yeah.
not?
No, I looked it up.
Who was it?
Yeah,
Some girl
and
I
so
know.
I thought it was. Yeah, I thought she was a very cool, kind of cocky droid, and I think it makes sense. You know, when we see in the Star Wars canon, when droids don't get their minds wiped, they tend to get a little bit more
Develop.
eccentric
Yeah.
and these personalities. And
R2
so,
and C-3PO.
And so he said that he didn't because she has this knowledge of star charts or whatever. And so, yeah, I liked L3. I loved it when she they're on Kessel, and she needs to get to the control panel, and she tries to get that R2 unit or whatever it was out of the way, and she's like, oh, restraining bolt. And she's like, she takes it off, like, get out of my way. And he's like, what? I don't know what you should do. Go free your brothers and sisters or whatever.
Start the whole
And
revolt.
I
Yep.
just thought that was so cool.
Yeah.
And then she's like, this is what I was create. Like, this is what I was
Yeah.
created for. I'm so glad we took this job. And she's so happy. So I kind of liked L3, and I liked the whole Kessel situation.
Yeah, I liked the way that she's still going to be a part of the ship.
So have we seen Pikes before? So
Pikes
the
were
Crime
in
Syndicate.
Pikes were in either Clone Wars as a rival group to like the Weequays that Obi-Wan and Anakin
Okay.
sometimes dealt with, or they were in Rebels somehow. But we've seen they've been introduced, but nothing really.
Do they look
developed.
like that with the gushy stuff spitting out of their face masks?
The masks are dead on, but I don't know about the drippings, which I thought were like disgusting
It's
and
very-
totally unnecessary.
So, that reminds me of another thing. In the Kessel, Kira and that head Pike guy are in that room, closed off, and she beats him up. And L3 is like, oh, what was that? And she's like, it's Terex Kasi. And
Yeah.
you were like, oh. And I was like, huh?
So this is really going deep.
Okay,
This
I'm ready.
will show kind of like how deep down the rabbit hole of Star Wars I used to go.
All right, let's
I'm
go.
ready.
So in Star Wars, there are other groups of people that use the Force, and I believe that fighting style is actually the name of one of these groups. And in one of the Star Wars role-playing games supplemental books, you could be a member of that group and learn that fighting style with a mechanic. And I was like, oh, well done, writers.
Yeah.
Like, you played the game. So,
Yeah.
They're saying that Kira's using that,
yes.
Yeah,
So,
Kira said
so she might not be traditionally Force like a Jedi. Or
So were Terex Kasi, were they Force users? So do we think, or is it a fighting style?
not on both. So not on the level that like the Jedi could touch the Force traditionally, but certainly, I don't know, the crime syndicates that she has worked for could have employed somebody who knew it. And
maybe she
taught
just
her.
has a little bit of a higher midichlorian count.
Oh, we're gonna do that, Amber. Gonna bring in the old midichlorians.
Whatever. Oh, that's great.
Do you have another hour that we can talk about this?
Oh, guys, I skipped over something real important.
Yeah, what's that?
What do you guys think about how Han met Chewie?
Oh, well, that was a cool throwback to the Rancor pit. I liked that idea. That, ooh, what's the monster going to be? He didn't feel monstery to me because I know him so much. He's real dirty.
Were you expecting it to be Chewie when he got thrown in that pit?
No.
No, me neither. Drew?
Yes.
Really?
So what I remember from the old stories was that they met because Han freed Wookiee slaves when he was kicked out of the Imperial Academy, and that's why he was kicked out.
Oh, okay.
And so now they have, in the grand tradition of Star Wars, changed the story to be, oh, they escaped together, so it's not Han and his pet.
Yeah. Yeah, because there's no mention of a life debt.
Correct, which was the premise of their partnership
Yeah.
in everything else prior to this film.
Yeah. Very interesting.
Yeah, it's interesting they didn't mention it. I just assumed. I mean, to me, it was implied, but because I already knew it, I guess.
Yeah.
So now they're just buddies, which is fine.
Yeah, and we saw, Chewie, and Han kind of expected Chewie to leave on Kessel, and then Chewie decided to stay with him, and so they obviously are friends. They've chosen to stay together. I wasn't quite sure how I felt about Han speaking Shirwook.
Is
was
that
a
what
li-
you call the language?
Yeah, I was like, I guess it makes sense if he can understand it. He could probably speak a little bit of it. I was we've never seen that before, and so
That's okay.
Yeah.
He can do anything he wants.
he can do anything he wants. Yeah, so I really liked Chewie throughout the movie. I thought they did a great job with him. Is this the first time he wasn't played by Peter Mayhew?
I believe so.
And so whoever it is, Jonas...
Peter Mayhew is in his 60s, I believe, so it would have been pretty challenging physically.
All those things that this guy did, he did great. And like there's some brutal maneuvers that Chewie did to a variety of people.
I loved him when he punched people and they flew backwards the way they came.
Yeah, and he ripped the arms off some guy in an elevator, and one guy he actually turned on top of his head and just smashed him straight down, and you're just like, oh.
A bipedal body is not supposed to meet force
No.
that way.
That was bad. So
It was really good cinematically, though.
yeah, it was great. It was fantastic.
So we talked about the train, then there's the Kessel Run, and then there's the big reveal at the end. So the Kessel Run, that was something that's been mentioned since the first time we ever met Han.
Did you like how they kind of solved the parsec problem?
I didn't realize until my brother Adam explained it to me that they did. I was just like, oh, they must just be ignoring the fact that parsecs are a distance and not a time. But I guess they didn't.
They didn't. Yeah. So did you like the Kessel Run, Amber?
Yeah, I always thought it was like a race.
Yeah, I thought it was too.
Nah, unlike the Bunta Eve pod
Bunta
racer.
Eve Classic. Yeah, and so,
So
yeah, it was
that
definitely different than I expected
it was a neat
it
way
to be.
to do it, and it makes sense that by going through the mall or whatever, that they were able to shave some distance off.
Yeah, exactly. Because there's only one way in or out.
How much time could they have? Or they didn't save time. It was distance because it took forever to get away from that octopus.
Well, they had to save distance to save time, I think.
Right.
And so, yeah, I liked that big octopus monster.
It felt very much like a thing that gets thrown into a Star Wars movie. The only thing that would have been better is if a bigger octopus came and ate it right before it got sucked in.
So in Rebels, they have these biological monstrosities that fly around in space and can actually go into hyperspace. It's very strange.
Yeah.
So there are things that live in the vacuum of space.
I can buy that.
Yeah, sure, why not?
If there can be swords made out of light, then those things can live in space.
Exactly. Did you see that when that creature was getting pulled into the maw, that like its like skin was like getting pulled off?
Yes,
oh,
I did.
that was gross.
Yeah,
That was
that
super
showed
gross.
the intensity.
Well, it wasn't
of the situation.
exactly a beautiful creature.
No.
It looked more like a terrible monster.
Yeah,
It
I loved it
definitely
when
did.
they turned the lights back on and the eye opens up and the whole crew
Oh
in the
my
cockpit
gosh!
goes,
Yeah,
"Ah!"
yeah.
Oh, that was so good.
Yes.
So, Drew, what did you think about the parsecs? Or the Kessel Run?
So I like that they answered the question. Mm-hmm. That's all. So it feels very Han Solo-y to be like, oh, hey, we're on this road and there's a problem. So I'll just veer into the woods for no good reason.
Yeah. It felt like, I'll just go into the asteroid field.
Yep.
You know?
That's fine. I'm me. So I'll come out of this perfect.
Was this the only time that we've seen Han go, I've got a good feeling about this?
Oh my
I think
gosh,
so,
I
yes.
loved it because we
Yeah.
hear him say I've got a bad feeling in every other movie.
He
I
gets
thought that
pretty
was
jaded
brilliant.
after this movie,
I
I
loved
think.
it. That was
Yeah.
really cute.
Like you can, but in this film though, to be fair to the character, like you could understand how he could become jaded.
Oh, yeah.
So I will allow for that.
Yeah. Absolutely. All right. Well, there's so much at the end I want to talk about. Let's just do it. Let's just jump in. What did you guys think about the huge reveal at the end?
I was so glad I hadn't been spoiled.
I was so glad too.
Yeah.
Drew. So all of a sudden, Darth Maul shows up on the screen, and Drew's arms like shoot up for like the rest of the scene. He's so excited. I'm just like, easy, guy.
So
It was exciting.
It was exciting.
I liked Darth Maul. He doesn't get too many lines in The Phantom Menace, but he is probably responsible for the greatest lightsaber fight, or at least the second greatest lightsaber fight in the history of the franchise.
Absolutely.
And not many things were as cool as when he lit up the second blade of that double-bladed
I
lightsaber.
completely agree.
Of course, Obi cuts him in half because Obi's the boss. And he falls down, of course, yet another endless pit, which are just ever present in Star Wars. And in the comics and then in the Clone Wars, he is not dead somehow.
Because he's such a great character. You can't kill him.
So they retcon in the grand tradition of Star Wars to bring back a dead character and give him these robotic legs. And
The
then
spider ones, right?
the spider ones.
Yeah.
And so they espouse on what happens to him and when he comes back in Clone Wars.
Mm-hmm.
And now which I believe are canon, but now it's real official.
Yeah, it's real.
Yeah, and so
So
that
where did this take place? Because he had spider legs. Is this before the spider legs or after?
this is after,
Okay.
and so he has spider legs, and then Mother Talzin or somebody helps him get
What a terrible-
just regular like 2 robot legs.
Used Sith magic to change the mechanical legs into something that resembled what he had before. That's fine, whatever.
Yeah, classic. Yeah, and so we have Clone Wars. He comes back. Now he's here at this point, and we know what happens to Darth Maul in Rebels.
Yep.
And so Maul tells Kira to meet him on Dathomir,
Yep.
which is where we find him on Rebels. So I want to go back to that episode and see, is there anything in Rebels? He's like this weird old hermity crazy
Yeah.
guy, and like, why is he still, did he get stranded there? Is that going to give us a clue on kind of what happened in the last however many years? I think 10 years or whatever. I'm interested to look that up.
I don't know that they would add him without some kind of future plan
Yeah.
for him. And if that's the case and they're going to develop a new storyline for him, I'm hooked. I'll go watch it. I don't care what it is.
That is the only reason that I think they're continuing the story.
Yep.
Like, I was like, oh great, we're going to tell the Han Solo story. Now we're kind of wrapping it up, and now I'm like, oh, they're not wrapping it up. It is ripe with story. Like, now
Yeah.
it's like you could go a lot of directions, and they didn't talk about Jabba specifically, but obviously he's going to Tatooine to talk to a crime boss.
Yeah.
He could
He can see that wall that he ends up on for 3 years.
exactly.
So you mentioned in one of the Easter eggs you found that there's a Mandalorian suit of armor in Dryden Voss's office. And so we know that the Boba Fett movie is coming. Could they tie Darth Maul into the Boba Fett movie?
Yeah. In canon, I read that Aura Singh actually teaches Boba Fett. She's actually an instructor of Boba Fett somewhere along the line. So I don't know. It'll be interesting to see where they put the Boba Fett timeline.
It could be a flashback, or it could be
Oh,
something. Yeah, something with his family or his.
Yeah, you
Because
can't do a
Mandalorian. Somebody takes over Mandalore.
Because Boba is, at the time of this film, something like 20, right? He's 10 in the Clone Wars,
Yeah,
20
yeah, I
or
think-
somewhere between 20 and 30 maybe.
yeah.
I think it would be pretty easy, like, oh, Boba Fett in his prime, because like the next time we see him is in Jabba's palace when Leia shows up with Chewie.
Could they, in the Boba Fett movie, could he cross paths with Han at that point without kind of messing up the OT?
I would totally love it if it was just kind of like Han just walks past him in a shot,
Yeah.
and he's like looking around like he's looking for like a mark or something, and here comes the actor something Aaron Reich or whatever his
Yeah.
name is, and just like walks past him like with Chewie, and they're like talking back and forth like, no, it's this way, no, it's that way.
Yeah.
That would be fun.
That would
But
be
he
great.
totally knows Boba, because when he's blind and going over the Sarlacc pit or whatever, he's like, Boba Fett? Where's Boba Fett? I mean, he knows who it is. And so I feel like you could easily have them run into each other.
Yeah. Could Boba Fett be when Han says, that's the bounty hunter we ran into on Ord Mantell? And,
Oh, for sure.
And so that could be a run-in with Boba Fett.
Yeah,
So-
could be Boss, could be Aura Singh,
Yeah.
could be any of them.
So-
Now it's a lot. There's a lot of threads they can weave.
Yeah, with all the great Easter eggy fun things that they did in this movie, because it was focused on Han, it makes me think, oh man, they could do a lot of really fun stuff with these other Obi-Wan movie. If they do a Boba Fett movie, and even if they do I'm not sold on this. I'm not sure I want it. Even if they do a Yoda movie, that could be very interesting.
I think so. It would be. I would watch it. They can do anything they want, and I'll watch it. Right, but
For sure.
but Miss Yoda is like the one thing in this franchise's history that they have left deliberately ambiguous.
Yes.
We don't know the name of his race. There's only ever been 2, 3, possibly 4 named characters of that race in anything that I've ever seen. He's by far the most important.
But,
Do
yeah.
we need an origin story for Yoda?
Yeah. Well, that's what I thought about Han,
Right.
and it was great.
Well,
So, all right, what's your opinion, guys, on what was going on in Kira's mind when she abandons Han
At the very end.
in the very end?
My opinion is that she definitely loved him as a young woman, and that she still had feelings for him, but she'd already gone too far. She kept referring to, you don't know what I've done. You don't know where I've, the things I've done as part of this Dryden's group. She tried to explain to him that she'd changed. I think she legitimately considered going with him. I think that crossed her mind. So I think it was sort of a decision. I think she'd made it before she said goodbye to him in the elevator when she said, I'll see you in a minute. That was clearly getting him out of there. But I think she deliberated, and I think she had genuine feelings, but the draw of the power was too much.
It'll be interesting to see where that goes in the future, if it goes anywhere. So the first time watching it, not realizing what was going on, I thought it was good. The second time, it was a lot more emotionally impacting, kind of watching her, say, hey, go on, I'm right behind you, and knowing that she's about to talk to Maul. And I'm like, well, why? Why is she doing this? And I'm kind of leaning towards, she's like, I'm so deep in this. I don't want to drag Han into this. And so it's just better off for him not to be part of this scenario. And so I think it was, in a way, altruistic.
Mm-hmm. You're always giving terrible people credit for things that are incorrect. I completely agree with what Amber said in every respect. And I think that the choice that she made was, I came from nothing. I've had to do things. If I go with the guy that I love, which is what I want to do, nothing's certain. Here, I have a chance to, make a life, or I'm making my mark.
Yeah, because she even says it's not about winning; it's just about staying in the game as long as you can.
And so she's a player. Like, she was a pawn before, but now she's working for people that will kill her at a moment's notice, right?
Yeah.
But people have played that game and they haven't retired from it, but they've lived through it.
So she's climbed her way to the top.
Yeah, she definitely still looked a little afraid of Maul when she got finished talking to him.
He's terrible.
So it wasn't like she was thrilled to have this power, but it was like she knew.
Like, meet me on Dathomir. We're going to be working a lot more closely together.
I'd be like, oh no.
And that's what she looked like, yeah.
Oh, the ship crashed. Sorry, can't
you just email me what you want me to steal or blow up, and I'll do it?
Yeah. If she was genuinely evil, she could have just killed Han. I mean, she didn't have to do as much as she did for him and with him.
Yeah, I just think there is this thing going on inside of her. I think there's some altruism in there.
Sure.
But I think what Drew said about, the idea of protection, because I picked up on the second watching when her and Han are escaping, she's like, man, what if we go somewhere and it's worse than this? And he's like, no place is worse than this. She's like, well, at least here we have protection. And in Han, he's like, what kind of protection is that? That's nothing. But for her, it was like, well, it's something, because she's like, we could get captured by slave traders and sold to, I think she actually said it's sold to Crimson Dawn.
Yeah.
And so it's interesting that she's like, I never got out. So apparently that is exactly what happened. And so she's apparently worked her way up.
I mean, it's altruistic if you count like betrayal and power grabbing as altruistic.
Sometimes that's
actions.
Just how you have to, for the greater good.
Her greater good.
So
I think that she was setting up for that choice ever since they got separated on Corellia, and she didn't have the heart to break the way that he viewed her, because she was still that girl on Corellia to him the whole time,
right?
And he couldn't see the fact, like, oh, like you're the girl, you're the person I knew, but you're not the same person now that.
These 3 years,
these things have happened.
Yeah, it was played well. That obviously he was so happy to see her, and he was right back to that 3 years ago, and she was so different. You could tell right away her reaction to him was just kind of like, "Oh yeah, it's kind of nice to see you. Now I've pined for you for 3 years." Yeah, she's great. Emilia Clarke, she's fantastic.
Yeah, she was great. I liked Dryden Voss. I thought he was a very cool character.
Anything that Paul Bettany does.
Yeah.
Okay.
I didn't catch that at first.
And so we don't know why they had all those scars on his face.
Or why they got red when he got mad.
Oh, man.
That was awesome.
I liked his lightsaber knives or whatever they were.
Yeah. You think those aren't vibroblades? Because
they could very well be, actually.
So
yeah,
they were just so mundane in the role-playing game that you never got the feeling that they were important.
Yeah, they were very, 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 very cool. So.
Yeah, he was one of those where he just acts like he's talking nice to you and maybe even giving you compliments, but he's about to kill you. Yeah, he's a great villain.
So I read that, I don't know who it was, but in Dryden's office was every idol that Indiana Jones went looking for
Well, there's the Crystal Skull,
was very obvious. But I also read,
which was
Drew,
a terrible film.
the Crystal Skull was also on the cover of the third Han Solo adventure trilogy by Brian Daley, Han Solo and the Lost Legacy.
That's fun.
In that
On the book?
In the book, it was
Weird.
called the My Tag Crystal Masthead of Zim the Despot.
Sure, and I've heard of Zim, but then I watched the Crystal Skull, and I checked out in the first 20 minutes when he survives a nuclear explosion by getting into a refrigerator.
Well, it was one of those old-fashioned
It
refrigerators.
was old-fashioned refrigerator, Drew.
If we had refrigerators that could survive nuclear explosions and that you could walk away from them, every human being in America would have a old-style refrigerator in our
Be
house
easy.
for
Yeah.
when whoever it is drops the bomb on
The
us.
tricky thing is you would then suffocate inside the old-style refrigerator.
Not
'cause
Indy.
You couldn't
Not
open
Indy.
it. No,
Yeah,
no.
I have 5 of them in our
Oh.
garage.
Nice.
So
We're not telling his mom and brother.
yeah, please don't. They just think it's for beef. So,
Oh, man.
and then one other thing that I learned, and this will be my last little tidbit, guys.
Oh, these are great. Keep
Are they
going.
good? Okay.
Yeah.
Lando recording his chronicles
Oh, yeah.
was great.
Oh,
It's
yeah, that was so fun.
He talks about a group of people called Sharu,
Mm-hmm.
and that is a reference to another book, Lando Calrissian and the Mind Harp of Sharu.
Yeah, I've read it.
Did you?
Yeah, it's great.
So, did you pick up on that in the?
It's one of the, I believe, one of the, so they have like a style that they write these novellas now for Star Wars books. They hire a group of writers and they rotate through, and you get something like 6 to 10 books out of it.
Yeah.
And there's a real format. But back then, it was just an individual author had their vision of what this was supposed to be, and that book was written very much in that style, and it reads completely differently than a lot of other Star Wars books, but it's real good.
Oh, I should read it.
Yeah,
I like Lando a lot. So.
Yeah, I like him a lot more now.
I do too.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that was amazing casting. I liked how he called him Han right at the start. And
That was great. And
that was always so weird when we were kids watching.
why does
Somebody-
Lando call him Han?
We
Billy
had
D is
Leia
just
and
off script.
Leia,
Yeah.
Princess Leia and Princess Leia, and then we had Han and Han. Like I wasn't sure how to pronounce it when I was a kid.
Yeah, that was a great little
Messed it up.
add-in there.
Yep.
So
So you mentioned that you would like to see more of the story. I would really like to see more. I'd like
I-
to see the Boba Fett or the Jabba the Hutt story.
I would, because we have, from what I read, we have 10 years from now until we meet him in A New
Episode
Hope.
4,
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, it could be within the last few months that he gets in trouble with Jabba there.
Yeah,
you
I
know,
know
or,
he's been on
you
the
know,
run for 10 years.
Yeah, and so he could have done numerous
Yeah.
jobs for
Because he's
for Jabba.
not technically a smuggler yet.
Well, are you even really a smuggler if you drop your shipment before you get to your destination?
So I thought that him dropping the load of coaxium felt like the same action a
Yep.
guy would do. Like, we're in trouble. I'm just going to drop it and
Hey,
see if it works out.
Han Solo and Chewbacca, hire us to get your cargo halfway to where it needs to
They did use the smuggling compartments in the Falcon.
Which was cool.
be. He didn't even get the money that the rebels gave him at the end of 4 to Jabba.
No.
He stayed with the rebels. He's just terrible at getting to where he needs to go.
Yes.
man.
And we see that again in The Force Awakens.
Yeah.
You know, he's smuggling Rathars, and both of those
Oh
groups
my
come,
gosh.
and he's like, I was just coming to see you. Like,
Oh
you're
my
the worst.
gosh.
Han Solo, 0 for 4.
But he's never afraid to just go up and start a conversation with the people that are going to kill him.
Yeah,
Yep.
he's great.
Just another reason why. So bad.
Drew loves Han.
I have severe problems with the character and why he's so beloved when he has accomplished nothing. So literally has been described as the person who blew up the Death Star. No, he's the dude that he walked up behind a TIE fighter and shot it in the back. And by the way, just want to let everyone know, the rebels are all terrorists. Like the Empire is a legitimate government of the galaxy.
Yeah, a bad government.
They are. They're not good.
Sometimes you got to stand up.
They're not
Overthrow.
they're not calling themselves the rightful government. They're calling themselves the rebels.
That's right.
They're rebellion.
And so I liked it when Han said to his lieutenant or whatever, he's like, "We're taking this planet for the Empire," and beating back the bad guys. And he's like, this is their planet. We're the bad guys.
Yes, that was good. That was good.
So I'm surprised you didn't get in more trouble for that. That seems like something that doesn't fly in the
I'll have to
Empire.
watch it
Yeah.
again because I missed that.
Yeah.
I missed that part when I went to get my hot dog.
It was good. So, Warwick Davis is apparently playing the same character he played in The Phantom Menace.
Oh, the guy at the Boon to Eve Classic
Yeah.
that is cheering on from the stands?
Yeah. So apparently, I don't know how that timeline works.
Warwick Davis does not age, so
Oh, that works out
he is
good.
simply present in all things of Star Wars
I mean, in real
simultaneously.
life, he doesn't seem like he
No.
looks the same.
Well,
Yeah.
he was like 10 when he filmed episode 6.
Oh, really? I didn't
He
know
was
that.
a small child.
Yeah.
Oh.
So Kenny
Yeah.
Baker was supposed to play Wicket, and he was sick, and so they got Warwick to fill in for him.
And Kenny Baker was the guy inside
R2.
R2D2,
Yeah. So
who has died now,
yeah,
unfortunately.
Do you guys have any closing thoughts on Solo?
I always have thoughts.
Okay. What's your closing thoughts?
Really good film. I'd recommend people see it. I think that it's enjoyable whether you know the story or don't.
Yeah.
And if you don't come away from it loving Lando Calrissian, I just don't know how that's possible. And I think that there's just a lot of great things to it. And if it doesn't make you want to watch the next thing that Star Wars does, then Star Wars probably isn't for you.
Yeah.
So.
I really enjoyed Rogue One. I think I like this better than Rogue One.
I
Sorry.
like this way better.
Nothing in this film compared to Darth Vader walking down that hallway,
That is
obliterating
so
rebels.
True. That is
That
so
was very
true.
cool.
And I thought that scene with those people who you hadn't met up to that point at all was the absolute best representation of what the rebellion was in microcosm. Mm-hmm. And it's literally like, oh, I need to hand this to the next person. My life is forfeit. This is more important. It's everything for the
Yeah.
cause. And they get away by the skin of their teeth because
Yeah.
that dude is coming.
That's
Yeah.
true.
Yeah.
That was very, very cool.
Yeah. So even in this movie, in Solo, they say they're trying to talk. Where could we get some coaxium? Oh, there's some on Scarif. Oh, that's
Yeah.
impossible. They just immediately go, that's impossible.
Right.
Right. And so, which we find out that it pretty much is impossible.
Yeah.
If you wanna leave
If you
again.
want to live.
I mean, if you're the Empire, it's not, right? You
Yeah.
can just point your huge moon-sized weapon at it and
Yeah.
just blow it out of the cosmos.
Yeah, I thought that was so. I love that little Easter egg and just that connection back to Scarif. They're just tying everything in. So. Well, that is great. Drew, thank you so much for joining us. It has been just so fun
Yeah, it was a
catching
lot
up
of
with
fun.
you and catching up with your thoughts on Solo. And I didn't even feel like you came off that negatively about Han Solo.
I didn't really get a chance to talk about how I actually feel about the character. Maybe we can do that at some
We
point
could do
in the
like
future.
a bonus cast.
Yeah. Just like a brief 30-minute rant.
A series where Drew talks about Star Wars characters he hates.
I like most of them.
Do
Jar
you?
Jar?
Okay, so you pick the least liked character ever created in anything.
Awesome.
For anybody that listens to this podcast, I love most of the characters
I
in
believe it.
Star
Yes,
Wars,
yes.
but Jar Jar and Han are not two of my faves.
I'm trying to think of another one you don't like, but I can't think of
It's
any.
tough because most of them
Yeah,
Yeah,
you
I
do.
thought
I
you
really
didn't like
enjoy.
Chewbacca.
Yeah, I guess I thought you didn't like Chewbacca too.
My feelings about Chewbacca have changed a lot. So, in most of the books, my problem with Chewbacca is that the viewer can't understand what he's conveying, and so it leads into one of my problems with Han, which is that he's essentially the translator for the viewer, and it makes Han more important by association. But like Chewie literally occupies the same role that like a dog would in like a family film. Like we know that it loves us. He's a part of the family. He's always with us on all of our trips in the car.
Aw.
But you can't talk to it, but you kind of know what he wants. Like, oh, it's hungry. Oh, it needs to go outside. Oh, it wants a playmate or whatever. But you can't develop a character like that very much.
Huh.
And
Yeah.
so they've made some effort in like the new trilogy and in this film to make him a standalone character,
Yeah.
which I didn't like that it wasn't. Like
Yeah.
he was reliant upon Han Solo in order to be a character in the story
Person.
at all.
Yeah. I like that. Good take.
Yeah,
Hot
that
take.
makes sense.
Hot takes from Drew. Love it.
That could be our own. We could do a new podcast. Hot takes with Drew.
I bet you've got a lot.
I think so.
I'm not necessarily what you would call mainstream.
Well, thank you, listeners, for joining us. We would like to hear from you. You can leave feedback about this episode. Let us know what you thought about the movie on Twitter or Facebook or Instagram at SegmentsCast. You can email us segmentscast@gmail.com. You can find our episode page, segments.libsyn.com.
Yep, and so we are everywhere that you get podcasts. We are on Spotify. We've got a few listeners over on Spotify, on iTunes, or find us on your favorite podcast player.
I'm actually doing it right now.
Ooh.
What is it again, Mark?
This is how we get Drew to listen to our show. We just invite him on. It's called Segments. If you go to your podcast player and type in Segments with Mark and Amber, you will find it. It's got a beautiful...
There's another one called Segments that's not us.
It's not us. This one has a beautiful graphic designed logo that our wonderful daughter Emma did. If you want her to draw you something, she is taking commissions of Hauntings on Twitter.
And our intro and outro music is from EDM Samurai. You can find him on SoundCloud at EDM Samurai.
All right. May the Force...
I got it. I'm subscribed. That's how long it takes, folks.
Wow. Drew, that's great.
I'm not
Look
lying
at
either.
that.
Look, you can see my phone.
Drew's
Boom.
subscribed now.
You can do it that
You
easy,
can do it.
folks.
It's all...
Literally seconds. That's the wonder of the internet.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us. May the Force be with you.
I've got a really good feeling about this.
Never tell me that. Oh, no.
Drew, will you translate? I'm not an ammunition person.